Good morning, and welcome once again to Zen Minded Men, and happy holidays to everyone. We're your hosts. I'm Sensei Art Gully.
Good morning, I'm Sensei Vince Ellis. This session of Zen Minded Men, we're bringing on another special guest, Sõke Mark Aycock of Tennessee. Uh, the subject we kind of wanted to delve into today was resilience and what martial arts brings to your life in the form of resilience. And just having met Sõke Aycock over the last few years, knowing his story, I thought he would bring a really interesting view of this topic. He's got a great story that I'm really looking forward to having him share with our audience. So with that, I'd like to introduce Sõke Mark Aycock, and I'm going to turn it over to you, sir.
Hey, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on.
Good morning, sir.
Did that come out okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, you got it. All right.
So Sõke Aycock, I'm calling him Sõke Aycock. A lot of people may not understand that, but one of the things that he's been able to do recently through his passion for the martial arts and due to some of the things that he's had to overcome is create his own system. So founders of systems have the title Sõke. I may be getting way toward the end of this story, but if you would, sir, just kind of take us through the beginning of your martial arts journey. Like, when did you start training? Whom were your teachers? A little bit about your early tournament time. Just walk us through the earlier part of your career.
You got it, my friends. Well, what got me interested in the martial arts was my father. He was in Army intelligence when I was just a little guy, about a couple of years old, and stationed over in Japan. And he actually studied at the Kodokan in Hokkaido. He was a very, very good athlete in high school and college, and really excelled in judo. And I can remember as a little boy in the drawer seeing that black belt in the gi, and that was the seed plant, and that's kind of what got me interested. And then he enrolled me in a class. He had to quit teaching, and I was about almost 5 years old. He had to quit teaching due to a severe asthma condition. And so he took me to a class at the YMCA, and I was too interested in swinging on the rope, yelling like Tarzan, than to do the judo class at the time. So, but that was kind of the seed plant. And then when I was 11 years old, I saw this gentleman and two young people do a karate demonstration at elementary school. And I was 15. The same man and some others did the same demonstration, and that man was Alan Wheeler. And a friend of mine, Mike Hubbs, took me at the dojo when I graduated from high school. I was getting ready to start the University of Tennessee, and I walked in the dojo and recognized Mr. Wheeler right off and knew that's where I was supposed to be, and that's where it all started. I seem to, I guess, adapt pretty quick, and just martial arts is one of those fascinating things. Like, I can still remember the old dojo, and I can remember the smells and everything. It's a great memory. He and I developed a great relationship, and I was actually his business partner for close to a decade. And so Mr. Wheeler was my main teacher. Of course, you guys know when you're at a dojo, you have a lot of other guys that spend time with you. And I know I'll probably forget people, so I'll just try to focus right now on Mr. Wheeler. And, and then I helped him with the curriculum at the school and teach a lot of classes and coach. And so you want me to take you through some of the tournament stuff? Is that what you guys?
Yeah.
Some of the history.
Again, I think people would be interested. I'm not probably intimately familiar with your history, but if you're around Ishinryu karate or karate in Tennessee, somebody's going to talk about Mark Aycock and his tournament career and his fighting prowess and everything else. And actually, our paths have our martial arts paths have crossed on a couple of different links. So even your sport karate career, and then probably your introduction to sport jiu-jitsu. I think that's a really interesting topic as well.
Okay. So I'll kind of take it through real quick. Like I said, I fell in love with competition, but it was probably, you develop that relationship at the dojo with those students. And even though I love to compete, I had to go. I wanted to be a champion, and I felt like I had the kind of a natural drive and the ingredients, and the work ethic. And we all know that's what it takes if you're going to be good at anything.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I was talking to you a little bit before. The very first year of the Hall of Fame, my friend Scott Shamblin was Karate Ka of the Year, and that's when they inducted Master Shimabuku. In the second year, Harold Long was inducted, and I was the Karate Ka of the Year. They just had a couple of awards, so I had already started making, I think, a good name for myself at the end of 79 and 80 and 81 on the tournament scene, and then it took off from there. I traveled a lot of the Eastern U.S. One of the big tournaments, and I'm not sure. I'm a lot older than you guys. I'm not sure when Art started, but I remember meeting Sensei Adams, Grandmaster Adams, and it was at the ALKA Grand Nationals in Chicago, right outside of Chicago, Naperville in '86, and a lot of great. It was a very beautiful tournament. Steve Young had put the tournament on, and it was a gorgeous venue, a lot of competitors, and so that was the first time I got to compete with a lot of the guys up north. And fortunately, I had a lot of fights that day, and I ended up winning the grand championship in fighting. And I think that kind of helped me make a connection with all those guys up north. And some of them started coming down south to the tournaments. And, the Tennessee karate circuit was developed, and I had a lot of success on that. And then I think I got burned out. At the time, I was a teacher by day, and I helped run the karate school at night, and I trained probably way overtrained. That was just the way God had made me, that kind of drive to pursue excellence. And the tough thing is when you sometimes let that thing take over, you never quenched your thirst. So you win this title. Well, I've got to win another title. Well, I've got to win another title. So it can kind of be a little bit of, a tough thing. And I trained a lot, and I kind of just got burned out. And that's when the sport jiu-jitsu opportunity came up. And I have to mention H.B. Henry, because he watched me at the ALKA Nationals, and we developed a friendship, and he loved the way I fought, and thought if I could learn the takedowns, and everything, that I could be a good addition to the 1990 team. And so next thing I knew, I was back at Mr. Wheeler's, just not teaching. It kind of brought he and I real close together again, and he helped me get sponsorship to go to the training camps. And good gosh, what a great group of people training and fighting. And that brings me to now Bob Steins is your cousin, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
Bob is my cousin, and he was the one that actually introduced me to the martial arts. He was my first instructor when he had a Shorin-ryu dojo in Williamsburg.
Yes. And what a great guy, because I remember meeting Bob. He came down to the dojo to work with Mr. Wheeler privately when I was training for the sport jiu-jitsu. And one of my closest friends, Chuck Reynolds, who runs the dojo now, he was one of my best friends and one of mine and Mr. Wheeler's at the same time. We both worked with him. And of course, Chuck has a great story in itself. He became, a world kata champion for NASCA. And, but the kata that he learned was Goju Shiho, I believe, from Bob. So Bob would come to some of the tournaments and watch, me compete. And, he was this big guy, but he had such grace and speed and power, of a smaller type fighter, and he did a beautiful kata too. So he and I would spar some. And I remember one day I told him, because I think he was on the U.S. karate team at the time. I was on the U.S. sport jiu-jitsu team. And getting ready for 1990. But anyway, so it helped me sparring with him because I had to fight a real big guy from New Zealand, probably about Bob's size or a little bigger. So me working out with Bob down at the dojo. And so that was the connection with me and Bob Stein. And I even told Mr. Wheeler and Chuck, I said, this guy is super intelligent in the martial arts. I was very impressed with that. And like I said, there's a lot of people I want to mention. I mentioned Mr. Wheeler, mentioned Bob, mentioned Chuck, and another good friend of mine kind of became my training partner, another cerebral type martial artist like Bob, John Myers. He was former Secret Service agent, and he and I developed a great friendship, and we were sparring partners for a couple of years. And but anyway, I mean, the Lord had blessed me with a lot of success in tournament competition, and I was blessed to be able to compete and win a lot of titles. But it's those things like when so I'm going to fast forward to now when Bob, we talked about what I had to do because of all the injuries, because I love Isshinryu karate, and I tell people I'm an Isshinryu stylist, but my ability to kick, the past couple of years, and I have some clients that have some problems with knees and back. So I was always, I felt like created these drills. Even when I was young black belt, I created all these concepts of training down at the dojo, and a lot of people started adopting them in a lot of other martial arts schools around. And, so I said, man, I can't kick like I used to. So, I actually developed a few katas years ago, and I started not working kicks in the katas, and I developed a few katas in a lot of these drills. It's really a mix. And Bob wanted to be, this meant the world to me. Bob said, I want to be a part of your legacy. And that kind of choked me up a little bit when he told me that, but he got a group of guys together, and you're involved, you're on some of the certificates. And I sent a curriculum to Bob of what I do. And next thing I know, he's developed this Sõke ship to honor my system called Takamashi Te, which means bowed hand, which is really, it's just a fundamental mix of Isshinryu karate, other Okinawan karate techniques, and fundamental boxing. It's all hands and all hand system. So, but going back to after the Sport Jiu-Jitsu World Championships, I was training for 92, and I tore my ACL during a takedown. And to go back a little further, talking about my dad, here he was a judo guy. So he became one of my trainers, training and getting ready for 1990. And here he was actually my age at that time. I'm 62. So in 1990, he was probably about 62, 63. And he became one of my trainers. And I remember the first time he came down to Wheeler's dojo, he was working. He says, well, let me show you this. Next thing I knew, I was on my back. And I went, okay. I said, okay, I can punch and kick, but I need to learn some of this. So that was kind of a neat thing. And it honored my dad and honored me. So, but then I actually had done some acting and modeling as well, both in Tennessee. And then I moved out to LA, and a friend of mine, Silk Cozart, has done a lot of acting. He's a filmmaker now. And so I worked with him and another acting coach and did a few little things out there. But actually, martial arts teaches us patience, but I wasn't patient enough to stay out there. So I came back home and got the itch to compete again. And it was my first, I hadn't fought in about 4 years, and it was a championship fight. And me and the other opponent, he was a real good fighter. We kind of collided. We blitzed each other at the same time. He caught me with a good shot to the side of the head, and my head hit the gym floor and had a bad concussion. And I continued to fight about a year and a half later, for about a year and a half after that. But I felt funny. I was getting sponsorship from a company to pay my way on the NASCAR tour. And I was doing really well, traveling and getting to compete again. But I kept feeling bad. Then one day I just collapsed to the ground. And next thing I knew, I was at several doctors, and I was diagnosed with an inner ear disorder called Meniere's disease. And it's a pretty nasty disease for some people because, we totally depend on our balance in the martial arts, and my balance was completely taken away. And I was so sick, I couldn't run. I was running a personal coaching business at the time. As a health coach, as a personal trainer, and as a personal martial arts coach. That's kind of built my own business doing that when I came back from LA. And, it took me down. And, there's times I couldn't work, and finally it incapacitated me. And I was sent to a specialist in Nashville, and they ended up doing brain surgery on the right side, where they cut you got two balance nerves, the vestibular nerves, and they cut that balance nerve just to get me back to some kind of function. Doctor told me, you don't need to do any personal coaching anymore. You don't need to be fighting. I said, well, I know fighting's over. You don't have to tell me that. I don't want to get hit in the head anymore, And also for martial artists out there, martial arts is safe. And as many rounds as I fought, as many tournaments as I fought, all the stars were aligned on that hit me, but it was very humbling. And I turned around and rebuilt my business. And I rehabbed myself by using slow kata training, shadow sparring, and I'd fall to the ground, get back up. And so that's kind of how the Meniere's disease happened. And I rehabbed myself. My favorite kata was Seisan, and I had a lot of success with that. And I was told by Mr. Wheeler, I don't know if this is it might not be true, but it's as far as we knew, one of the first black belts in Ishinryu to win was Seisan Kata, win grand championships and open tournaments multiple times. So I love Seisan Kata. It's just my favorite one. But about 7 months after my brain surgery, Mr. Wheeler's tournament was coming around. I knew I couldn't fight, and when I competed, my attitude was to go win. This time it was not. It was just to say, Lord, give me the strength just one more time, and I'll walk away from it. I know I can't fight. And I was in the executive division. So I won weapons, and it was a kata that I developed called Takamashi Bo back years ago, which means bold or strong, and won it. Next thing I knew, I took first in kata, and it put me in the grand. And I said, okay. And so I was very blessed. I won the grand. It was a very emotional. Mr. Wheeler presented me the award, and I walked away from tournaments and just started coaching and helping others. So that's kind of built up to the Meniere's disease, and what happened with that. But I was able to rebuild my business and still have to deal with headaches and dizziness at times and have to cancel out clients. That's just part of the ugliness of that disease. And so anyway, y'all got any questions up to that point?
Well, actually, I'm gonna jump in. I'm sitting here mesmerized because honestly, your story could be a lifetime movie. It's just inspirational, just the action aspect of it in. But we like to educate folks as well. And Meniere's disease, and for anyone who's listening who wants to look this up, it's spelled Meniere, and then apostrophe S, and it's a disease. It's a disorder to the inner ear, which can lead to dizzy spells, vertigo, and hearing loss. So if anyone would like to look that up to have a better understanding of the challenges Sõke is going through, feel free to do that. One of the things that me and Vince, we always talk about is how martial arts is the framework. This was Vince coined this, and I love it. We hang our life on. And throughout your story, I love how any challenge you met, even before the Meniere's, your katas, your fighting, the different styles, you just restructured your life to say, okay, this is what I want. This is what I got to do to get it. This is what I want. This is what I got to do. That to us is one of the reasons we are in martial arts, is because it gives us a code to live by. We've done the podcast on the 7 aspects of Bushido, and we try to show how everything we learn translates off the mat. Well, you took your drive and determination. You had a stellar fighting career. You had a stellar business. You were able to forge friendships which have lasted long time, and you've developed your own system. And to me, all of that just goes back to, you had to have the patience to do it. You had to have the courage to do it. You had to have the respect of what you were learning and the people who were teaching you to do it. And it just goes forth. And then when you're knocked down with something that's totally out of your control, you decided, okay, one of the concepts, poems of the fist, the body must be able to change directions. You changed directions. You couldn't fight. but you can still do kata, and you developed a system so that people that are similar challenges can still do. And to me, that is, if that's not a prime example of resilience and dedication to not only the craft, but the spirit of what the martial arts is about, I don't know what is. Now, one of the questions I like to have is, when you're developing your own system, I'm pretty sure you come across, there's always going to be detractors who say, oh, you're too arrogant to develop your own system, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, you don't listen to detractors. You forge ahead. But how was your system received? You know, how, when people understood that what you were trying to do, how was it accepted, and what kind of support did you get, or what kind of negativity did you get, and how did you overcome that and just say, hey, man, this is something I got to do? What's been your experience with that?
That's a great question, and thanks for pointing it out, Meniere's disease, and explaining that, because a lot of people, don't understand it. They think, oh, you get a little dizzy. No, you get really dizzy. Everything goes out of control. But thanks for that. I appreciate it, Art. But yeah, I mean, look at the people. The American Sport Jiu-Jitsu League, and Vince is a big part of that, and there's a lot of Vision Rue people involved with the sport jiu-jitsu, kind of transfer over to a different sport, and I guess as far as received, this group of people, Vincent and Bob and Coach Tony Maynard, he was my coach in 1990. I'm going to forget some people, Mickey Heath, HB Henry. That's a great group of people who want to recognize something you've done. John Del Vecchio, what a great fighter that young man is. And I know people probably have opinions. Fortunately, nobody said anything so far. But, basically, when I was talking to Bob, I knew he had got recognized for his system, but I was asking him more kind of, how do I get recognized for a method of training? Because I've been a trainer and a coach for so many years. And Bob encouraged me, this would be the way to go. And so to me, my peers around me have really received it well, and know that my love for Isshinryu karate, it's a big part of what I do. It's just kind of a synthesis of those things I mentioned earlier. And but so far, nothing negative. But sometimes, I guess sometimes people just don't say anything, and sometimes that might be best, So, so hopefully that answered your question. But as far as being received, I really feel like throughout my martial arts career, and I've seen this outpouring, and we can get to talking what happened to me recently. It's outpouring of love from people, and martial artists helped me out through another tough time. And I think I told Vincent the other day, I said, when my career, I fought for about 20 years. When it ended, I felt like I've been fighting ever since, fighting with Meniere's disease and this new diagnosis, which I know Vincent wants me to get into a little bit. So,
if I may, sir, I know the concept of Takamashite has been something that you've been doing for a long time, but
sure.
Kind of to answer Art's question, or to add some value to that, or the formalization of this as a system and the recognition, that's something that's actually come about in the last year. So it's pretty new, actually. That's something that maybe since it's a 2020 thing, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So that's something that's just come to fruition here in 2020. But I know Sõke Aycock has a very talented student that's been competing with the Bokata and kind of a modified version of Shinto in the Tennessee area for a couple of years. Sensei Mike Branch, which I've competed against a couple times in kata, and he's tough. He wins, man. He wins. He's a great competitor and a great human being.
I think something that we should point out. Are you guys hearing me? Is my mic?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I think something that we should point out that's really important is a lot of people, when you're looking at karate, I've been doing a lot of research on this, and with this hip thing that's been going through for the last several almost couple of years, I've had to adapt a lot of stuff, and fortunately, Hanshi Adams has really helped me adapt a lot of katas to deal with that. But I think it shows people the true purpose of martial arts, at least in our aspect, the Okinawan original karate te, the true purpose was for self-defense. Now, a little bit of the history, of course, when the Japanese came to Okinawa and they saw the different styles of hand systems or teis, and they wanted to bring their diplomats they wanted to present it, they said, well, you guys got to formalize this so that we can present this. And the Japanese took it and turned it into basically the spiritual discipline, whatever. But original karate, original Okinawan te is about self-defense. And I like how, if this is not working for me, I'm not going to adhere to some dogmatic training because this is how it's taught. I'm going to take what works and make it work. And that your system is such it harkens back to the old masters. It's like in the spirit of what Grandmaster Shimabuku did. He took a little of this, he took a little of that, he took a little of that, he created it and made it work. And it all comes down to Master Moses Power said it best. Can you fight though? It all comes down to that, because at the end of the day, we're all learning martial arts. Well, yeah, we want to better ourselves. We want to do this. But at the end of the day, we want to know that if we step out on that street, whatever comes at us, we taking it down. If there's a threat to me, I'm getting rid of it. If it's a threat to my family, I'm getting rid of it. And that's what it represents. And you are a prime example of why we say, everyone always says martial arts for all ages, all sizes, all conditions. But do you really understand what that means? Well, Sõke Aycock comes along and says, yeah, I was a fighter who was a beast. Then I'm debilitated, but I'm still a beast because I work with my debilitations to work. That shows what martial arts is about. It's about adaptability. It's about, well, of course, it's about resilience. And I think that anyone listening, if you've ever thought about martial arts or taken martial arts, maybe you think you're a little overweight, or maybe you think that you're too short, or maybe you're not strong, or maybe, you know, you have maybe one leg is crippled, or you have other disabilities. Don't ever let it stop you. Look at the core, look at the principle. If you go into a school, one thing Hanshi Adams always says, if you do a technique, look at the technique, but as long as you're following the principle of what this technique is showing you, that's what martial arts is. That's what true karate is. It's principles. Your system, and please pronounce it again because I'm horrible with names.
Takamashi, it means strong or bold.
Takamashi. Takamashi, you said you can't kick anymore because of the Minears. But it's not about kicking. It's about doing what you need to do to get the job done.
Yes.
And that is what I really wish that karate could be promoted as. I wish everyone would stop always thinking kicking, punching, high flying, whatever, and just the spirit of karate basically is empty hands. What can you do with your empty hands? Okay, it doesn't say empty foot. It says empty hands. What can you do with what you're doing? As long as you're following the principles, you can defend yourself and move forward. And I think that your system is showing that. And that's, I'm just, like I said, I love meeting new people, and I love hearing stories of how karate has helped you overcome. And since we're segueing into that, could you bring us up to speed on this new challenge that you're facing? Because Vince touched upon it, but I'd rather hear it from you. You know, let our listeners know that we thought that Meniere's was your challenge. Now you're facing something even totally different. Could you bring us into that?
Yes, and thank you for that. I'll go back real quick and give a quick story about my friend Mike Branch. In 1988, he was down at Wheeler's school, and I tested Mike for his black belt, and he loved Ishinryu karate. You could tell then. Then he had some things happen and got away from it, and about, I guess, getting close to 5 years ago, maybe, he came to me and said, and here he's getting ready to, I think he was 59, he's 63 now, I believe. So it's about almost 5 years ago. He said, I never got to compete as a black belt. I would like to compete one time and win. And I looked at him. I said, you're getting ready to turn 60 and you'll go out there and try and win? I said, that's a tall order. But Mike had a great work ethic, like my student Chuck Reynolds down at Wheeler's. I mean, we know that's what it boils down to, what's your work ethic. And like Vince was saying, Mike's taken off with it and has done great. And he's 63 now. And I taught him this version of Chinto that I developed called Chinto Note, which means the hands of Chinto. And he's done great with it. So I'm proud of Mike for that. So I wanted to mention that. And, but yeah, so, yeah, all this, Vincent was saying, all this kind of came about from my good friend Bob Steins about the Takamashite and getting recognized as a system of martial arts. And, you know, basically what you were talking about, empty hand, look, when I had, and I'd had a couple of knee surgeries too, which affected my kick. So, and I love kicking people in the head back in the day, you know, it's nothing like kicking somebody in the head, as Bill Wallace would say. But I had a chance to work a whole lot with Joe Louis, and he had great boxing skills. And he and I developed a friendship, you know. So, so that helped me get my hands even a little bit better, you know, working the boxing. And like I told people, I said, you can take a couple of blocks and a couple of punches and develop a good fighting system out of that if you know what you're doing. You know, if you know what you're doing with it. So anyway, enough on that. That's just kind of, I'm a big believer in basic techniques, basic work, keeping it basic, keeping it fundamental. And, but what happened was you were talking about having your hips or hip. Did you have hip replacement?
Yeah, total hip replacement on the left side.
Okay, well, pray that you're recovering from that. Okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I was scheduled about right before Thanksgiving, and I have these flare-ups with Meniere's, and I had to miss some work and wasn't feeling good, dizzy, you know, and all you can basically do is sit down and wait it out, and because you don't want to go driving, and they kind of exhaust you, but it kept happening, and off and on for about 2 weeks. But to tell the story real quick, my wife, Michelle, I got a very loving wife, Michelle. She's awesome. And she always encourages me to go to the dermatologist every other year to get my skin checked. So I did. And he goes, how long have you had that? And he noticed I had an umbilical hernia. And I said, for a while. He said, you better get that thing checked because it's going to get worse. And so he got me in real quick right there at his office to a vascular surgeon. And so that was about a week later. So they checked me out and said, yeah, you might want to get this addressed. And so we scheduled the surgery. So on December 1st, my surgery is scheduled for the 3rd. On December 1st, I go to the hospital and get all the blood work done. And so I get a phone call the next day on Wednesday, the 2nd. And the nurse from the vascular surgeon said, Mark, we have to cancel your surgery. There's something really wrong with your blood work and you need to get in your primary care physician ASAP. She goes, your white blood cell count's really high. And it was 23.8 and normal's 10 and below. So it could be anything. You know, I could have been fighting some kind of infection or anything, but only thing I dealt with was Meniere's episodes. So I called my primary care doctor, which fortunately a great guy, and he didn't have any appointments till the next day. So I went in with his nurse practitioner, who's awesome. A lot of questions. So they're sitting there checking me, no fever, no anything, started checking lymph nodes, liver, spleen, pushing. Then they said, we're going to rerun this blood work to see if it's a fluke. And, but we're also going to run a peripheral smear, and that's a test for cancer. And I said, okay. So they called me that afternoon, said the white blood cell test was not a fluke. And in fact, it had gone up from 23.8 to 24.2 within a day. So I just asked her on the phone. I just started putting 2 and 2 together. It's like the Lord was preparing me. So are y'all looking for leukemia? And she said, well, Mark, we're trying to rule things out, but yes, that's one of the things. So as a health consultant too, of course, I just started researching some basic nutrition supplements and just went ahead and started preparing myself, you know. And on December 4th, I got the phone call from my doctor's office, said, you're showing strong signs of a type of leukemia called chronic lymphocytic leukemia. And they call it CLL for short. You got, and then all you hear is cancer and leukemia, you know,
Yeah.
and everything else kind of goes in the background. And I'm sitting there going, wow, you know, kind of took me back a little bit. But my wife trains, she's a personal trainer, and she's actually what we would call a yoga grandmaster. She's an RY, I think you call it RYT. Yeah, she's, she actually, I'll backtrack. She actually worked at the Cleveland Clinic and taught the Cleveland Indian. She was their mind body fitness coordinator for the Cleveland Indian baseball team. I have to say that because with her background in medicine, it kind of helps me, a lot. So I'm sitting there. So she trains the wife of a really good oncologist that deals with specializes in the blood cancers. And I knew him that he works out at the place where I teach my personal martial arts. So he got me in immediately. Okay. So on Monday, that was on Monday the 7th. So he ran all these tests, comes in, said, this is what you have. And so I went for another appointment on the 23rd. Yes, 23rd, right before Christmas Eve. So this past week, and he went over everything. So the good thing is it's at a low level. Okay. But I asked him the question. I said, why has my blood count? Because when he did the blood count, it was 28.2. So within less than a week, it went from 23.8 to 28.2. And he goes, well, that's why we're going to keep you closely monitored. And then he went over, if I need this therapy, they would do the target therapy, the immunotherapy, which is a lot better on your body than chemo, So right now they're going to keep me monitored. My B12 is really low. Could be, a lot of things could be from the cancer. So I'll be going in his office, the next several months, getting my blood work done and getting the B12 injections. And he said, if things get a little wacky, we'll go ahead and do this target immunotherapy. So, but now if I can use this as a witness and help somebody out, to be bold for Christ, that's what I want to do. And fortunately, like I said, I got a wonderful wife. I got great friends. I got great doctors. And so it's just something I'm going to have to deal with like I did with the Meniere's disease, So, but still, when you get that, you're sitting there going, cancer, leukemia, cancer, I have cancer, leukemia, over and over in your head. And so the emotions set in and everything else. But anyway, I know God has a plan for me with this.
Yeah, that's just any cancer is a very touchy subject for me. My mom, when I was 17, she was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it was going to take her out. But at the time, her doctor was we like to call him a young radical. He tried a radical form of chemo, and it pulled her through. And a few years later after that, she developed breast cancer. And then she went through that. And a few years later, the breast cancer came back on the other side. She did the double mastectomy. Then a few years later, the breast cancer came back, and she beat all of it. And then over the years, she had to deal with the effects of the chemo. She had Parkinson's, she had a stroke, and the last few years of her life, I was pretty much taking care of her. She had the congestive heart failure. Her heart had been destroyed from the chemo. But the one thing is, like you, she would have her moments, but I'm telling you, this woman never stopped smiling. She never stopped trying up until the very day that she finally, God called her home. She was just, I got to keep doing what I got to do. I got to, because I was doing everything. I was doing her laundry, grocery, and we had her in therapy for walking. And she's like, I got to try to do it. I'm just so tired of being sick, but I got to try to do it. And it's just a testament of the human spirit. And
yes,
I love how, if anyone can, if you're watching the video, this is great. But if you listen to the podcast, that's cool. But I love how you're just relaxing in this chair.
Yeah, I'm rocking, aren't I?
You're telling us this, but you're so serene. And I know a part of this is from your training and meditation and all that, but I just love the strength of spirit. And this is why when Vince suggested we have you on, we wanted to have you on, because like you say, so many people are dealing with so much. And you hear cancer and you immediately think, that's it, I'm gone. And you just said, you've got to do this, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. You're fighting it, and you're being monitored, and science is coming up. So it's not always the horrible death sentence that people fear. It is serious, and it is nothing to take lightly, but you're showing us how, hey, it's just another battle that you got to prepare for. You can't kick and punch with this one. You've got to do other things, but it's still, and I think, one thing me and Vince have in common is we're very close to God. We're both Christians. We're both fortunate enough to have strong women in our lives, our wives, who actually can fight better than us, although don't tell them that. And I think it's important, you have such a great support system with your friend, Mike Branch, your wife, your doctors. It's just showing that, hey, This is a man who was put on this earth to beat the odds. You were put on this earth to fight, win, and come out on the other side. And if nothing else, you're inspiring just by talking to us. You're showing people, hey, don't be afraid of this stuff. Whatever faces you, get it head on, keep going. And that's something that we learn in martial arts. Don't be afraid of that punch coming at you. You've been taught what to do, train hard and do it. Don't be afraid of that big guy. You've been taught how to take that big guy down, do it. Don't be afraid of that difficult whatever at work. You've been taught how to mentally prepare yourself, calm yourself, do it. You're showing us, hey, don't be afraid of that illness. You know what you've got to do, just do it. And I think I want to thank you so much for sharing that, and also just being an inspiration to us. It's just like I said, it's just great to see people who are just like not accepting what life is giving them, but that because me and Vince often talk about how society has just it's gotten comfortable with rewarding mediocrity, the participation trophies. And I think it's taken
Yes.
some of
Oh,
the
yes.
spirit out of
Yeah.
us. Society as a whole,
Absolutely.
we don't fight anymore for anything. We accept it and just, well, this is just it, and that's just it. We don't say, well, this is it, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing that. And you are an example of, like I said, the human spirit rising to the challenge, meeting the challenge, and keep on going. And I think that's just great. I'll ramble forever because that's just me. Sensei Ellis, you want to
Well,
jump in
thank you.
here?
No, hey, I was going to tell you are we going to Vincent?
Yeah, well, one of the things I just like to say is, why we wanted to start this, or why I wanted to start this, this whole year 2020 has just been crazy with all the COVID shutdowns and everything like this. And then this just presented itself as an avenue to maybe share some of the greater aspects of martial arts with the larger community. People get introduced to martial arts oftentimes through mass media, whether it's television or movies or things like that, maybe sports, and you get a very one-dimensional view of what the martial arts is all about. And I think that probably sparked all of us in the beginning to watch these people with what seemed like almost magical powers on a big screen, or maybe, guys like Bill Wallace or Joe Louis, competing and seeing their physical attributes and their abilities. But once we were fortunate enough to start training and in the right environment, I think we were all blessed to have good teachers and be around good people. When you stick around and you maintain that open mind and you look and you learn, you see the greater aspects, all of the things that martial arts brings to you in your everyday life. Sometimes it's not obvious until you take a step back and look at, maybe why you act the way you do. But I got to give credit to Master Adams for this. I remember as a young black belt in particular, him talking to us one night about how people ought to see you differently. There ought to be something about you, much the way the Bible talks about Christians. We're to be light. The world should see you differently. Just the fact that you're at work every day, you show up every day. You're not sick like everybody else. Your attitude is different than everybody else's. As a dedicated martial artist, as a training martial artist, somebody that really wants to embody what it is to live that lifestyle, there should be a curiosity about you, and that should drive people to ask questions. And in a case of the way you face adversity, whether it be physical or mental, or especially with illnesses and stuff like that, when you're able to stand up and maintain a positive attitude, keep your spirits high. I know Sõke Aycock, well, all of us, we look at this and yeah, cancer's a terrible thing. But we know as people of faith that, our time here on earth is limited. Something's going to take us out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We're prepared for that, but that doesn't mean that we take that lightly. We want to be here as long as we can. The minute we're out of this, when you're out of the fight, you're out of the fight. whether that's in the ring, you know, if you get knocked out, if you get beat by points, whatever. If you're out of the fight, you're out of the fight. That doesn't mean you don't go back to the dojo and train for the next fight. And in the case of, you know, our existence, you know, as Christians, we're here to be warriors for the kingdom. And when we're out of the fight here, we hopefully go on to a greater reward. But, you know, we're not doing our job here. So we have a job to do here.
Mm-hmm.
And death is definitely the enemy. So whatever enemy puts in front of us, we're going to battle that enemy with every tool that we have. So, you know, I really commend Sõke Aycock for looking at this, you know, in a very courageous manner. And my sister happens to work for a cancer clinic in Lexington, and my family recently went through this with one of my uncles. We lost him after an 18-month battle with cancer. But just what I learned through that and from her, cancer is not what it used to be. You know, it's not necessarily the, you know, the doom that it was, especially if it can be caught early. You know, and I want to tell people, see your physicians. Nobody's immortal. We can't beat it on our own. You know, medicine has a place. So get your annual checkups. Again, Sõke Aycock and his wife, I know we talked earlier this week, and he was thinking about putting that off. He's like, maybe I don't need that. But his wife was persistent, and I'm guilty. I'll be honest with you. I'm guilty of not listening and putting that stuff off. But, you know, these things are important. Our bodies are a machine in essence, and they need maintenance, and sometimes they need repair. So, you know, we can't be so stubborn and bold to think that we can handle everything, regardless of our attitudes, whether you're, you know, a world champion fighter, world champion kata person, you know, and that's another thing that martial arts teaches us. It is an individual endeavor, but we thrive on the community that we reside in. You know, the dojo is very much a family, and the spirit and energy of those people, you feed from that. You know, if you're fortunate enough to be in a good dojo and around positive people, that brings a positive energy to your life, and it's going to drive you on to greater things. And that's just another aspect of the martial art that people don't get to see often from the outside. You know, we perform as individuals in the ring, but we're oftentimes driven by the people that we train with. I know, you know, Sõke Aycock's mentioned several times his training partners, sparring partners, teachers. We all have those. Art and I have talked a lot of times. You know, he and I in Southfield Dojo, when we would be on the mat together, we brought out the best in each other. You know, it's that thing where you want to challenge your, you know, you don't ever want to break your partners down, but you want them to rise to the best of their ability. And that's how everybody grows and gets stronger. And in the case of, you know, whatever the challenge is, you know, being a part of a positive community just makes it that much easier, you know. And again, I've mentioned this to both of you guys, I think, but having come to Christianity later in life, the dojo and my martial arts, that's where what, you know, brought that to mind was it became the frame that my life was modeled after. It provided me with the structure, the moral structure, and the character structure that I needed when I was younger. Although I had a knowledge and fear of God, I in no way practiced a Christian lifestyle the way I do today.
It's important. And one of the things Sõke Aycock, he said early on, and it's just been rolling in my head, and I want to bust out laughing, but I haven't, is when you said the dojo smells. And I came from I originally started with the Master Adams at the Dexter Davison dojo. And you want to talk about stink, but it is funny how those experiences will shape your life. You know, you're training, you're doing something, and you think back and you remember how at the time you don't see how important that is. But those little small micro experiences, the smell of a place, the look of the place, you know, since they painted all the windows shut because he didn't want us being distracted looking out later in life,
It's great.
you get in a situation, you realize, well, I'm in this situation, but I mean, hey, if I can go to Dexter Davidson and train and it's 100 degrees and it stinks in there, I can deal with this. You know, if I can go into the dojo and get smacked around and just, you know, if I can go in there with Vince and know that he's going to try to kill me every week, yeah, I can deal with this. And I think that that's it is funny in the movies. A lot of times we watch karate movies. When you watch the old ones, the Shaw brothers, I think they did a better job of showing the resistance of the spirit, especially anything with the Shaolin monks. It was always the typical story. The temple's burning, they've got to escape, they get beat, now they have to go and they train hard to overcome whatever, you know. And I think that that's something that we've kind of lost later. Now everything's action, action, action. But I think I would like to see the spirit of the martial arts be more, that just that, hey, you know, karate of the soul means I'm not going to accept anything that's coming at me. I'm going to try to fight it. And since Alice is so spot on, because my wife is the, let's just say, she is the boss of this house. I'm the head of this house, but she is the boss of this house. Make no mistake. The reason this hip got fixed is because she's like, you know, I'm not dealing with this anymore. You're in constant pain. You can't walk. You're mean. I'm not dealing with this. You either get it fixed or you're going to be lonely. You know, she's like that with all of us. With my son, she's like, okay, you're getting this check. You're getting this check. And I think it's important to have those people in our lives. And it's important, like you do, you've acknowledged throughout this whole podcast, you've been acknowledging the people who have helped you. And that's something that people got to realize. Nobody is a champion by themselves. Nobody is a champion by themselves. For
True.
every champion you see, there's someone standing there who trained them, gave them that water, made them feel better, brought them that ice pack, told them that, hey, you can do this. If we can get past that, I'm so strong, I can do it on my own mentality and move forward, we can. The Okinawan masters early on, and I think this, I would love to go to Okinawa one day. They started karate. There was no differentiation of styles and systems. It was
Right.
this master, this master, and this master. Historically, when you really reach it, these masters got together and shared technique, and each person just developed and developed. And that's what it was. And like I said before, Sõke Aycock, what you're doing is in the spirits of the original Okinawan masters. You've designed a system that, hey, I just want to design something that shows people that no matter what your condition or what your situation, you can still fight. And not only can you fight, you can still teach. Now, some people will look at you and say, well, you've got Meniere's and, you know, now you've got leukemia, but you're still teaching. You're teaching that I've got this. Now, let me show you how to fight with this. I've got Meniere's. Let me show you how to overcome and accept it and fight with this. So people never think that you don't have something to teach. You don't have something to share. And martial arts is important in that. There's always something to teach. There's always something to share. There's always something to learn. And so in that respect, I think that what we're doing as martial artists and as Christians, and you said, you know, the God has a place on this earth. Right now, you're here sharing your story. If just one person hears this and goes to the doctor and gets checked and discovers something, we've accomplished our goal. If just one person says, you know, I've been kind of having headaches, let me get checked, and discovers, and their life improves, we've accomplished our goals. You know, we think that I want to change the world. Well, you can only change the world one step at a time.
Yes.
If we just help one person today, we've accomplished what we set out to do. And obviously, you're going to help way more than that, because I don't want to make light of this, but I'm curious of how your system is going to adapt to include, if you're dealing with cancer medicines, and how your system's going to adapt when you're not feeling good after something. Because I already know you're going to adapt this experience into your other teachings and come out, you know. So it's, to me, it's like every challenge you face, you decide how you're going to deal with it. Now, personally, I'm anxiety. I have a lot of it. So my wife is my rudder. I'm always on the ceiling. She's always bringing me down, giving me the look like, will you stop, please? And I think that training helps, meditation, martial arts. I think life comes down to, you're going to face challenges. You're going to face problems. What determines how you live is how you respond to that problem and how you respond to that challenge. Sõke Aycock is a prime
Oh, you call me,
example of.
you
Oh,
call me
Sensei.
sensei. You can call me
Okay,
sensei.
I
That's
don't want to
fine.
disrespect the system
No,
because I
no,
mean
no,
that's a
no.
big thing.
No.
You created an acknowledged system now, but
Yeah.
Sensei Sõke Aycock, double S,
There you go.
is an example of how you deal with a challenge. It comes at you. What does martial arts say? You either hit the angle, move out of the way, duck, or block. Whatever it is, as long as it works, okay? You can't block, you can't get out of the way of Meniere's. So you learned how to accept it, block it, absorb it. You can't get out of the way of leukemia. You're learning how to accept it, block it, absorb it, and hopefully you will overcome it. I have no doubt in my mind that you're going to overcome this and become strong. I have no doubt in my mind because of your spirit and because of the inner strength that you have. And just because of the faith in yourself that you have, it takes people. Let me just tell people who's listening to this, it takes a whole lot of confidence, faith, and excuse my language, balls to take an established system and develop something that you think will work and put it out there and share it with people. That takes a lot of gravitas. And it's that kind of attitude, which I think you're going to just sail forward with everything. And that is what we want people to see. Have that spirit, have that strength, have that power, have that courage. Don't let anyone tell you different. Don't let everyone stop you. Every day I look at my oldest son. He was born at 25 weeks. He weighed 1 pound and 8 ounces when he was born. And he has Poland syndrome. So one of his arms is slightly a little bit malformed. He's had several surgeries. Now this kid's 21, big mountain of a man, strong as an ox. This never lets nothing stop him. He's just shooting up and down the stairs. Now he's doing laundry. And I'm just like, every day I get to see how the human spirit is just, my other sons, they've had their challenges over the time. Nothing stops them. Wife the same way. Sõke Aycock, like I said, you are an example of what it truly means to take the spirit of martial arts, that spirit of never give up. And all dojos Sensei has, it says, we will give out before we give in. This is the core of it. You will give out before you give in. You're not giving out yet because you're not giving in. You're going to keep going. And if you do give out, you can say, well, you know what? I did everything I could. You've adopted one of the things that people that I don't know if anyone picked up on that. You adopted your businesses. You're self-made. You had your own business. You had to change that to accommodate your life and your current conditions. That's important. That's another aspect. It's not just body, physical, and mental. It's also sometimes your career has to change. Let martial arts show you how, okay, I can no longer do this. I'm going to switch it up. Now I'm going to do this. But throughout that whole thing, you maintain that, hey, this is just what I got to do. When I got slammed on that mat, I had to get back up. When they slammed me with this veneers, I had to keep moving forward. When they're telling me about this leukemia, I got to keep moving forward. And I know I'm repeating that, but I think it's important for people to see that the strength of spirit is what true martial artists, this is what we all have in common. Well, true martial artists. I don't mean those karate dons. I don't mean people who practice martial arts. I mean people who are martial artists. Strength of spirit can carry you forward. And Sõke, you are a prime example of that. And like I said, I just thank you for coming on and sharing with that. And I got to look up some information because I really want to learn some of your style, because I've learned that I used to be one of them head kickers too. When your hips don't work, you don't kick that much. You barely walk. That whole step slide, it becomes a whole new situation. It becomes more like a Peter Patter step sit.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I'm with you.
like I said, we're not going to hold it too long for everyone listening, because this is the holidays and we know people want to get back to eating turkey and ham and ribs and rolls. But Sensei, I just want to thank you for popping on. And people, as usual, I like to give it to Sensei Ellis to take us home with it. But I want to mention that Sensei Sõke has Aycock, I'm sorry, has a GoFundMe page, and I'm going to put the link to that on this podcast and also in the YouTube that you can click on, because things cost, healthcare costs, and anything that anyone can do, feel free to do. But I think it's really important that we support folks. So one of the ways you can do that is, for one, please look up any information you can on Meniere's disease so you can understand that, maybe help a person. Look up what you can on leukemia so you can understand that, and go to Sensei's GoFundMe page and do whatever you can to help him fight these medical costs and get through this, and like kick leukemia's ass like he's kicking everything else. Okay, so it's a huge, it says the Mark Aycock support organized by Heather Hughes. And if you want to look that up, Sensei Aycock's name is spelled Markaycock. And there's this www.gofundme.com. Now there's this 20 letter link after that. I'm not going to say it out loud. The link will be in this podcast, but if you want to look up at the GoFundMe, it's for Mike Aycock.
Mark.
It's organized. I'm sorry, Mark Aycock. Oh my God. Support organized by Heather Hughes. And I'm sitting right here reading the thing. And again, Aycock is spelled Aycock. And on that note, Sensei, would you take us out like you normally do?
Yeah, again, in regards to the GoFundMe page, I just want everybody to understand this was nothing that Sõke Aycock did. This is his students are driving this. There's something that they put together to try to help Sõke Aycock and his family. They know, as he's mentioned throughout this podcast, they're both self-employed personal trainers, and medical expenses rise if you're not insured by some major agency or something like that. So he spent his life giving back to those that he's taught, trained, coached, and it's if you have the means, it's nothing that he's asked for personally, but anybody that has the means and wants to help somebody who's a brother in the martial arts, a Christian brother, now's our time. If you have the means, you have the opportunity and the means to go do so. And again, just knowing his story, we Sõke Aycock and I have had a chance to be together one-on-one personally a couple of times, but like I said, if you're in the Tennessee karate area, in the Knoxville area or the Southeast here, you've heard of the tenacity of Mark Aycock as a tournament competitor, as a fighter, as a coach. And if you are a tournament competitor, a fighter, then, those are the people that you aspire to, that you look up to. So his example has been amazing. I've had a chance to train in the Wheeler Dojo on several occasions and train with guys like Chuck Reynolds that he's mentioned. I know the admiration that Chuck has for Mark. And again, just knowing Chuck, knowing Master Reynolds, different Master Reynolds, but Chuck Reynolds, Master Chuck Reynolds, and his mindset and his attitude. If you know somebody and for them to give respect to somebody else, the type of person that they have to be. Knowing my cousin, Bob Steins, my teacher, and the type of people that he respects, when he brings up somebody's name and speaks in admiration, then a little bit about that person, whether you've ever met them or not. But I have had the opportunity to personally be in the company of Sõke Aycock, and he is everything and more that all of the stories and the accolades that he's had has told him to be. He's a humble warrior, and I look forward to spending more time with him. And I do appreciate him being with us here today. And I'm going to give him the last word. Anything that you have to share with the audience, sir?
Sure. I'd like to say a few things. So, you ready?
Yes, sir.
I'm ready. Okay. Yeah. I just want to, when Art said something about his wife letting him know, hey, and even through this diagnosis, my wife, Michelle, says, hey, you're not smiling. Hey, get your mind right, so, and that's a big part of it. And he had mentioned Heather Hughes. She's actually one of my black belt students. She and Mike work together on this GoFundMe page, and she's just an awesome friend too, and an awesome student. And so many people I'm going to forget, but the support, the TOKA, Traditional Okinawan Karate Association, the ASJL, American Sport Jiu-Jitsu League, their support, phone calls from people. Of course, again, my wife, my friends, even reconnected with one of my close childhood friends who's been very concerned, Steve Wells, and another childhood friend that's a friend of mine, actually training some, Jeff Daniels, and my longtime best friend, Mark Henderson. Everybody's been concerned. My brother, Rick, my sister, Amy. I've got some black belts that come in from North Carolina. One of them, James McKinney.
Yes, sir.
James, you and James had that was an awesome fight. James and David Ray and Mark Williams, they come in every quarter to get my coaching. And like Art said, you learn to adapt as a coach. I don't have to get out there with them. I can show them something, then have them repeat it over and over. And but also, just talking about really, hopefully, hopefully this can be some kind of testimony, because I talked to you about this the other day. As a competitor, sometimes that could overtake you. All you want to do is win, and that becomes your idol, winning. And even though I felt like I knew, like we were talking about with you, the Lord for a long time, I think you come to a breaking point. And a few years ago, that kind of came with me, just the Lord, just help me to let go of things and just focus on you. And, but this has been great. You two guys are awesome. And I appreciate y'all having me on the show. And Art, it's great to meet you, my friend. And I felt like
same to meet you, sir.
I already know you. I feel like I know you well. So, but you come from a great lineage of and history of Ishinryu karate from Grandmaster Adams. He has quite a reputation too in the world of Ishinryu and martial arts. So, but guys, thank you again. Again, I know there's a lot of people that I didn't mention that I'll forget, and but the love and support of everybody calling and checking on me, like I talked about my friend John Myers and everybody else, that means so much. And to me, it helps me keep the fight going.
Awesome.
It sounds good. And on that note, everyone, once again, thank you for joining us. Sensei, Sõke Aycock, thank you so much for sharing everything with us. And we're going to wish you the best. And we're going to be I know Vince is going to be keeping in touch, but hey, don't be surprised if we call you up again to have you on the show again, because we also like to talk about principles. And with you being the originator of your own style, I got a whole lot of questions for you. I want to pick your brain. So thanks again for bringing us on here. And there was something else I wanted to mention in regards to that. Oh, yes. In regards to your style, is there do you have like a YouTube channel, or is there some literature so people that are interested, they can read up and find out and learn more about your system? Is there anything out there currently?
That's a good question, and the answer is no. But but anyway, what it is, I work as a part-time personal coach, so I don't do classes or groups anymore. I used to teach a lot of seminars, so I've got a handful of students. But I'll tell you what, once you can get my contact information, and I can email you just a real general curriculum and what it's about. And that's what I've got to start with. But no, it's really just came with Bob getting my curriculum, and he knows me and talking to me about what I'm doing, and he got excited. And like I said, everything it's based off fundamentals. Most karate systems, the backbone is kata training. The backbone in Takamashite, even though there are some katas, there's 5 empty hand and 2 bow katas, and some of them are Ishinryu, so because Ishinryu is such a big part of it, basic technique training, just doing drills, just working basic drills, with the hands. And I've got all sorts of little things that I do with that, but I'll make sure, hey, Vincent, just make sure he gets my email. I think you've got it, and phone number, and I'll send that to him. Okay.
Cool. Sounds
all right.
Good.
God bless you guys. Thank you.
You too. Have a good one, sir.
All right.
All right.